Luke. We're here with a review of Dunkirk, the latest movie from Christopher Nolan, who's a great writer and director.
The last movie he did was
Interstellar.
That's what I thought it was.
Interstellar's fucking amazing.
Would you say it's stellar?
It was stellar.
What? I haven't seen it yet. I probably should do that.
You should. It's very, very good.
Also, a good Matthew McConaughey movie. Who knew?
All right.
I think I actually have it. I should just let you borrow it.
I should do that sometime.
We should have a movie night.
Yeah. Yeah, Christopher Nolan. I mean, Christopher Nolan's probably one of the best directors
now.
In the modern era,
currently,
for sure. And he's put out amazing movies. The Dark Knight. That whole trilogy is pretty damn good, but especially The Dark Knight. I like Inception.
Inception's
it's a very
incredible
fucking.
I still have not
movie.
watched Inception.
You should. You should watch it twice. Actually,
because
the first time you're going to be fucking lost, and the second time things are going to click more. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
He did Interstellar. What's the other movie? The one where it's told backwards. Starts with an M. Memento. The one where it's told backwards. I got it.
Yeah.
I answered my own question.
Yeah, he's just a very, very creative dude. So, Dunkirk though tells a tale of what actually happened.
The Battle of Dunkirk. Well, I wouldn't say the Battle of Dunkirk.
Evacuation. The evacuation of Dunkirk.
Yeah, from World War II.
In WW2.
1940.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, what happened at Dunkirk is that the Germans were just literally blitzing and beating the fucking shit out of the British and French forces, pretty much, and trapped them at Dunkirk on the beaches.
Dunkirk and Ostend? Was that the other town right there? Because it shows
kind of like
two towns on the map, on the
it's kind of like that area.
Propaganda maps.
I believe so. It's been a little while since I've been versed in European history.
Speaking of the maps, I thought that was like a clever little thing in the beginning of the movie.
And he introduced it, yeah.
Yeah. And there was like 400,000 troops trapped at Dunkirk, and then they eventually, the Germans were just kind of fucking with them a little bit, and then they eventually all got evacuated by like civilians and all that stuff, taken to Britain to fight another day. It would probably be a very different place potentially right now if it wasn't for what happened at Dunkirk. Spoilers on how the movie goes.
Not really spoilers, because if you have studied history, you kind of know how this goes.
History spoiler.
But like pretty much the whole armies.
The whole British
there.
Expeditionary Force, is that what it was?
Basically.
It wasn't even the British Army, it was the British Expeditionary Force.
And most of the French army. That would eventually go to have like the remote government there, and then this isn't a history video though, so
no.
but it kind of is
in some ways. But
so the movie starts off with just some soldiers walking around, then
pamphlets,
gunfire starts happening, and then you kind of go, oh, they're just dropping you right in this. Like, it's no war movie in that there's going to be setup of this person has his love interest or whatever, and it gets sent to war.
No, this is a war movie.
It's like they just drop you right into, we're fucking trapped at Dunkirk. This is how it's going to go down, type of thing. It's not really a war movie. It's more of a movie about survival and how they all survived. That's just awful situation, and also, I mean, it gets to at times like the horrors of World War II and just war in general and stuff, but
and what people do to survive in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, and how they might band together but can very quickly turn on each other to just try to survive themselves, and it gets to some very interesting stuff. But what did we all think of this movie?
I enjoy this movie. I enjoy war movies a lot, and going into it, I knew it was going to happen, and I mean, I'm going to do it anyway. Even though they are different movies, I'm going to inevitably compare this to, in my opinion, probably the best war movie of recent memory, and that's Hacksaw Ridge. But then again, they're two completely different movies. Hacksaw Ridge is more about this one guy's story, and then this is more about the story of everybody with a focus on certain characters. Which is cool because you kind of get lost in the glitz and the glam of, and when other war movies do that, where it's like, here's this character, we're focusing on them, whereas this was very much, I mean, I could see this movie I mean, there's almost definitely some liberties taken, probably with like characters and some of the people you see, but like this could easily be like something that they'd show off on like the History Channel. It's very accurate representation of what's happening.
Really accurate representation of 1940s France, technically.
Yeah. So, and I really like that about it. All of like the scenery and like the I guess the sets and the locations, which it's very, there's not a lot of them, which is also good. It's very small, and it kind of, you kind of feel in a lot of times, like in a couple shots where like all the soldiers are on a pier and they're kind of all crammed together on a boat. You feel like the claustrophobia, and you can kind of understand when like soldiers, they don't want to go below deck because, you know, every ship they've gone on has been sunk, and it's like, you know, the fear, and they manage, Christopher Nolan manages to capture that with what's happening very well. You know, one thing I'll say though, which is probably my only major complaint with this movie, would be that, in the sense that yes, the movie isn't really about some of these characters, they just happen to be in it. Some of them can kind of get lost in translation, is maybe the terminology I want to use, where it's like, I'm going to remember the movie, but then it's going to be like, you know, if you try to be like, yeah, remember this character, I might be like, you know what I mean? Whereas again, comparing it to Hacksaw Ridge had like a number of very cool characters with like, I mean, Vince Vaughn was in the movie and his character's pretty good, and oh, I forget his name, the guy who plays the main character in Avatar. Sean something. No.
Sean Layden.
That's not Sean Layden.
Sean Spencer.
No. I'll remember. I feel bad for forgetting his name because he's in like a bunch of things. But like, you know, there was characters, and it's like, yeah, I remember this character from this movie. Whereas like, maybe with the exception of the memorable faces, who I'm like, hey, I know who that person is. Maybe there wouldn't be too many characters.
We didn't really get a name with a lot of the faces.
Well, yeah, but then it's like I'll remember him because it's like, I know who you are. Whereas like on some of the other characters, like, honestly, I didn't pick up on the fact that I think one of the main characters, who's like the guy you focus on, I didn't know his name was Tommy until I looked on IMDb. Like, you know what I mean? It's like kind of stuff like that is the only thing I think this movie suffered with, but everything else was great. Also, I'm going to avert from saying the word soundtrack and say sound design of this movie, because there's a lot of like noise, and I think that adds to the whole thing, and that it was masterfully done because it all fits, and it's like, and it also adds some things of like, is that ambient noise, like, you know, or is this like a part of the score? And I think that adds a whole lot to the movie itself.
There really wasn't much of a score.
I mean, there wasn't spots.
I mean, there was spots, but like, not like you would think in a typical cinematic movie. Like, there was a lot of noise, yes, but there wasn't like orchestration. And
then the last thing I'll say before I hand it off to anybody else was, I think the thing this movie does best, and I mean, we've said it like about 5 different ways already, but it's the atmosphere is what this movie does very well of capturing. I mean, there's a moment which is seen in the trailer, so it's not too much of a spoiler, where you just see a soldier and he just kind of starts walking down the beach, and he just starts taking off his gear because he's decided, I'm just going to swim for it. And it's like, but that moment is really good. It captures, like, I guess, how hopeless a lot of these soldiers feel. Yeah. And I feel like that was a very good job. And they capture that kind of atmosphere, again, with the claustrophobia and this kind of fear very, very well.
I mean, I was going to bring up that very scene if you didn't hit it. You know, I think that scene, and again, we saw it in the trailers, but that was probably one of the most standout scenes to me, because it really kind of got across the emotional tone of the situation for the whole movie. It's like, well, I'm either going to make it or I'm going to die. Either way, I'm not dying on this beach. Mm-hmm. And there was hopelessness, but it's like, hey, I might make it. But the way he was just kind of like taking off his helmet and walking into the water, I thought he was just going to go and float until he drowned.
That could also be. I mean, you only really see him get into the water. You don't know what happens to him.
Exactly, and I think the kind of mystery of that leaves you to your own interpretation of what he was doing. Yeah, like you said, there's really not a whole lot of like. There's the kind of the main characters the plot focuses on, but you really don't get anyone's names. Like the only names you hear is like Dawson,
George,
and George, and Peter.
which he. I once I noticed it, I couldn't not notice it. How often, whenever he was talking to George, like every single line, he's like George. He would just start. I'm like, I'm just noticing it every single time. I'm like,
George.
I get it. His name is George.
George.
You don't have to tell me that it's.
Can I pet the rabbits, George?
The other guy isn't in the shot. You don't have to tell me who you're talking to. It's obvious. You're looking. I'm like, but okay.
Can I pet the rabbits, George?
Okay, I'm not. Okay, I'd be lying if I said that didn't show up in my brain at some point when I was watching. I would be lying.
I mean, speaking of Dawson, I think his character was very well done. He seemed like someone who was probably a veteran of World War One, just because of his knowledge of like how things were working and you know, with the bomber and all of that. Like he said, the feeling of claustrophobia was real in a lot of shots of this movie, except for maybe it's a spoiler, maybe not. One of the ships that people are on gets hit with a torpedo, which I think that was in the trailer too, wasn't it?
Yeah. A lot of that stuff.
Yeah. But, you know, as the ship's going down, there's these guys that are inside, down in the hold. They think they're making it, and all of a sudden, boom, the place starts flooding. And then the screen goes pitch dark. And all you hear is just, like, muffled sounds of people screaming underwater. And it's like, okay, this is kind of uncomfortable right now. Can we move this along a little quicker? I really don't know what much else I can add.
This is one of my favorite movies of the year. I mean, it's crazy to get, you know, two, like, just incredible movies back to back. You know, I mean, three if you count Spider-Man was really good, but
I mean, even I would throw Wonder Woman in there too.
And Guardians.
This has been a great year for movies so far.
I love these type of movies, not just war movies, but like movies that have a huge budget that aren't connected to anything. Yes. It feels so fucking refreshing of like, here's this big budget movie that just kills it in every fucking way. And
it's not part of a universe or a franchise.
It's super refreshing sometimes. I love that stuff. And, you know, Christopher Nolan is a fucking incredible director. And it's very obvious with this movie because of the way some of the shots are, you know, actually shot with the camera angles and all that stuff. Like, it adds a totally different feeling to it. But the sound is fucking crazy because not only do they have this kind of like ambient noise thing going on a lot, but my fucking goodness did they capture the sound of fucking gunfire and bombs.
And the dive bombers themselves, like, okay, can you pitch this up anymore?
Like, it's terrifying. Yeah. Like, I seriously jumped at one of the times where, like, it was Tom Hardy's character, who, you know, he's a pilot, and, you know, they're just flying around talking to each other, and then they start getting shot, and I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like, the fucking bullets and all that stuff, I mean, the way they capture that sound is just unbelievable.
The difference between just the guns on the planes, between like the Spitfire's little meager cannons and then the bombers' fucking wing guns, was quite noticeable, actually.
Or, you know, you can tell where a bullet hits.
Yeah,
because you get from playing video games, you get that familiar ping of somebody getting hit in the helmet, and it's like, oh,
you're dead.
Like stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, this movie had some very, very just kind of like terrifying moments of like, this was a fucking awful conflict, you know? Like, here's these soldiers that finally get on a ship, they think they're hopefully going to go home, and, you know, they're just kind of standing around, they're finally smiling, they're having a little bit of food, and they can't even be safe there, you know? And the ship gets torpedoed, and it goes under, and it's just this, like, terrifying thing, and it's like, that just sucks. Or they're actually sailing home and they're probably halfway fucking back to Britain and all of a sudden they get bombed. It's like you're just never safe type of thing. And the way they captured that stuff was just incredible. I like that they didn't really develop these characters at all and you didn't really know much, because I still feel like they really made you care about them in a lot of really incredible ways. And I feel like when you think about that, if they were soldiers in actual Dunkirk, like, they're just kind of normal soldiers doing their jobs. They're not these standout people that need build up as these heroes. And yeah, they might be a hero because they shot a plane down that was about to come down and bomb a few of them or whatever. Yeah, they're heroes in that way, but they're still a normal person. You know what I mean? Normal dude just doing what he needs to do to help his side of the conflict win. And I like how they did that, because originally, reading about this movie ahead of time, I heard that was one thing people were complaining about, and I was like, yeah, that might not pay off well. But I think it absolutely did. I liked it.
Yeah, when you put it that way, I can agree. It's like in the concept of a war movie, it's just the only thing that I'll throw in there, because I'm not saying I disagree, because I get that, and I get that's what they were going for, so I'm not saying it like them not having terribly fleshed out characters is a bad thing, but maybe the only thing would be for like rewatch value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like it's like the only thing with that, like, might hurt it a little bit, but yeah, like
but
when you put it that way, that's like these are just soldiers again, because putting it in the perspective with Hacksaw Ridge was about the medic who didn't carry a gun in Japan, and he was like, he saved a bunch of people's lives on Hacksaw Ridge, and this is one singular person, whereas this is a moment in history where the tide could have potentially completely shifted the other way. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would have hurt if they would have built him out a little bit more or anything, but yeah, you definitely won't rewatch this movie for the characters. It'll be for the movie as a whole, and certain moments and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, it's an incredible movie. It'll definitely have you on the edge of your seat. And I like how they just were constantly cutting back and forth. I think that the editing in this movie was pretty spot on,
because it's like basically there's events are happening in the movie, but they're not chronological.
Yeah,
they kind of all take place on their own timelines, and then they all converge towards the climax of the movie, which again, it took a little while to kind of get, because it's like, wait, in this scene it's night, but then it's still daylight in these scenes, and it seems like not much time has gone on.
It took me a bit to
like,
figure out.
And then it's like, and then it kind of, then when we got to the moment where
what's his name crashed.
Well, yeah, you look at things and it's like, oh wait, that okay, and you kind of start to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Which that was done really well. Yeah. Because originally, like, I thinking in the beginning of the movie, I'm like, I don't know about the pacing. This is really weird, and then it kind of all started to come together. I'm like, okay, I get it now. Yeah. This is good. I like this. So.
Yeah. Going back to that claustrophobia feeling, like, it wasn't just like the little tiny shots and like the constricted areas, like on the mole or in the boats. You could feel the lines shrinking behind them as they were trying to evacuate, and as the Germans were just kind of fucking with them, and basically saying, "Hey, we can pick you off at will. Like, we had tanks, we could have just rolled over you, but we didn't because we're going to use them elsewhere."
Yeah, the Germans probably absolutely could have wiped them all out
easily,
but they had that.
Though, like, do you know why? Why did
because they got that big dick syndrome.
That's exactly the reason. They're like,
oh, really?
Why waste tanks
and just pick them off
when it's like they were convinced that they had such a domination of the sea and as much of it in the air that it's like you're not gonna get rescued.
Anyway.
Technologically,
so
the Germans had the better planes than the Allies.
Oh yeah,
the Allies' planes were garbage.
Had the better tanks too at that point.
Yeah.
Until
we built the M1
Abrams.
Still used today.
Go ahead. Yeah. You have anything else?
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I'll say is
it was
we mentioned it was they kind of captured that survivor mentality. There's two moments in the beginning and then towards the end of the movie where you see soldiers and factions who are on the same side, but now they're at each other's throats because it's all about making it home.
Mm-hmm.
And
and home was literally right there.
There's the line from Kenneth
French. It
Brown.
was there.
It was there.
Yeah.
For Kenneth Branagh's character. He's like, you can practically see it from here. Because, I mean, that's not...
No.
The English Channel is not very...
No, it's not very wide.
So it's like... Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also a very great moment when the civilian boats actually showed up. Like, and they had, the score behind it and everything. It's like, wow, this is actually really good. You knew it was coming the whole time.
Yeah.
Especially if you know about
history.
How it went down. But it's like, damn, it's just so good because the soldiers are just so happy. And it's like, fuck, we're probably going to get home. And it was a great moment. It's a great movie. I mean, it's good. I like it a lot.
Scores.
I'll give it a 9.5. Really like the movie.
9.5 for me as well. It's great.
What did I give Logan? Because, I mean, goddamn.
Probably gave it 9.5.
Yeah.
I think we all gave 9.5s across the board for that one.
I mean, I just saw it, so I'm trying to decide if it's really up there with Logan. I decided it is, 9.5. I mean, this was an incredible movie.
I feel like it's not too much spoiler-wise
No.
to talk about. It's just like,
Again, it's history. If you've studied, or you can just go and Google Dunkirk and you can look at the whole battle that happened, which I kind of did because I really didn't learn much about it.
The only other kind of interesting note is that this is Harry Styles' first movie role.
Yeah.
Which is weird. But I mean, sure.
And he played a dick.
He did play Dick. He didn't do half bad. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think Christopher Nolan would let him be bad.
No. Then there's Scarecrow.
Also, I mean, just saying, this movie's got to be fucking expensive to make.
Oh,
I heard
because it's got to be a set piece. Because that means everything's you got to kind of make everything.
What they didn't spend on like sets and things like that because it was very confined and like, hey, we're in these planes over the sea, we're on boats, or we're on the beach.
Yeah.
So they probably took whatever budget remained from that and spent it all on ammunition and explosions.
Yeah, and the amount of like costumes they needed for people, like holy shit.
Yeah.
And also, I heard that, and I'm not a film person, so I really don't know that he shot this movie with 70mm or whatever, which is apparently like this super fucking great thing.
I mean,
this is
standard film is 35mm.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Christopher Nolan doesn't get out of bed unless it's for IMAX.
Yeah,
so,
and that's another thing. This movie is apparently very, very, very optimized for IMAX.
I mean, that's his thing.
Yeah.
He filmed The Dark Knight completely with IMAX cameras. Actually, completely destroyed one of them.
Wasn't there only like 3 in the world or something?
It was 4, and now there's only 3 because he ran it over with a car.
That's right. Didn't you run it over with one of the Batmobiles or whatever?
No, during one
it
of the
must be nice, man, to be in his position and it's just
to
like,
just be like, whoops,
sorry.
Sorry,
What you gonna do about it? I'm making you one of the best movies of the year. Sorry.
Anyway.
Go see Dunkirk.